Hello everybody and welcome back to Evil Ted Live. This episode, I built a costume, Mongo the Mutilator, but also call him Mongo the Red Demon because that name was a bit too long. I went to BlizzCon in 2016 with this costume and it was such a big turnout. And in building it, I cut some corners to get it done. And one of the corners I did was I had spikes everywhere on this costume. And normally I make things with spikes. I have them removable with magnets. But after I made the costume, it was all done. It was great. I realized I wanted to travel with this costume, but I can't travel with it because these shoulder spikes don't fit in a container very well. So I'm going to take a pre-existing piece of costume, my armor piece, and I'm going to very carefully cut the spikes off and replace them and make them detachable with magnets. Now, normally doing something like that, you want to kind of incorporate the design. So I'm going to do some modifications and see how well I can do this and still make it look decent. So if you guys are ready. I don't know if I am, but let's get started. Here's the piece in question. This is a shoulder piece. I have two of these, and they're symmetrical. But there's definitely a right and a left. But to make this easy, I made it symmetrical. And these spikes are huge. And so my plan is to take this knife, and I'm going to very carefully cut them off. But the trick is when you cut these off, you're going to have to make sure every time you cut them, they're not going to be interchangeable. Each part you cut has to be the same. So you take that magnet, it's going to have to be the same. It's going to go back to the same spot. So once I cut these guys off, I'm going to label them on the inside. But let's start with cutting this off. So I have my box cutter, I have my blade sharpener. And I'm realizing the flat plane, there's a plane that's going this direction. So I'm going to start from here and start from over here. So very carefully, I'm going to cut in. All right, that's one side. But I always try to resharpen every time. Oh, there you go, getting close. All right, there it is. That is cut off. You can see the different foam, different colors. Top and bottom right there. There's definitely going to be some touch-ups, I'm sure. But now this is cut off. I have a wood burner, and I'm going to label this guy number 1 at the top. I come down like this. So now we have this 1-1, so we know this is the top. This goes here, set it aside. Oh, so another thing I'm going to be replacing is this fur. I made this huge mistake. When I was making this costume, I just took fur and cut it like a strip and just glued it. But being fabric, it had tension, so it rolled up on itself. So all the fur is actually facing inside. And this looks great here. It should look like that on the outside. So I realized I have to basically lay down new fur pieces and cut those because, again, I was rushing to get this done, and this was a mistake. So I'm going to definitely replace that as well. All right, perfect. All right, got it. Number 2, I'm putting the 2 on the top, so therefore I know that's the top. Because once you start cutting things off, and they look similar, you're gonna have a hard time putting them back together again. I know, because back in the days I used to like label things, and anything with Sharpies or marks over time, things just get worn off. And so now with the wood burner, you definitely label things a little easier and more permanent. Little helpful tip when you're using your wood burner, when you're done with this wood burner, unplug it and set it away from your work table, because I have damaged so many great costume parts by just accidentally placing something into it. So put it aside and get it off your workstation. All right, the shoulder pieces here, they've been labeled. The spikes have been labeled. Our next step is we're gonna start putting earth magnets. I went out and got the heavy duty ones. I like these really big ones. Matter of fact, I have links for these below the video. What we're going to do is I'm going to take my stone bit on my rotary tool and make an indentation. So we take the magnets and they travel in 2. So we take the top and the bottom magnet right here. These are the 2 that are going to go together. So I leave them stuck together. And I take a rotary tool and a stone bit and just rough up one side. Flip it over to the other side. And the magnet I want to put is going to be probably smack down in the center here. So I'm gonna take my stone bit and I'm gonna make an indentation. All right, now that we have the indentation, you have both your magnets. You want to go the depth just enough for the first magnet, and it's just on the edge. I'm going a little bit deep, but this will still work. And leaving the second magnet on there. You still want to have the magnet stick out. So now we'll take some Goop glue. This stuff is the bomb for gluing in magnets. I've done super glue in the past, and every time I've done it, it eventually always pops out. And I found that once I do anything with Goop, they never come back out. So we're going to take this same technique and we're going to do it on all of them. Okay, we put the Goop on and now it's completely dry. And the thing is, the Goop is a strong glue, but it does need time to dry. They say 24 hours, but I find that if you give it a good 8 hours, it's strong enough for you to handle. Now, as you can see on the magnets, I left, there's the magnet and there's the magnet for the spike. And I go ahead and leave those on there so we know where they're going. And you can see I already roughed the sides up on these guys. So now we're going to start with number 1. And here's the trick. We want to put this magnet into the spike, but how are we going to line them up? This is a trick I learned. Here's my number 1 spike. And I usually would just take it and push on it and hold it and make an indentation, but I find it works a little better if you heat it up. Now you don't have to melt it, just get it hot enough to leave an impression. Heat up a little bit. Hold it, push it in place. Now, hold it. Now I'm pushing, but I'm also making sure you line it up on the seams. It's nicely lined up. All right, I think that's long enough. Pull it off. And there's the impression. All right, it's right there. I know it's kind of hard to see from the video, but it actually is an impression right there. So now the key is I got to grind this down just a little bit to recess the magnet. And the key is it's best to do a little bit every time. You don't want to go too deep. Just go gently. Here you go. Get the indentation. Let's go back. Let's place it on top of that. Look at that. Wow, that's almost perfect. Now, that sits flush. Now the next step is to get my Goop, apply it in my little hole. Got it. Remove the earth magnet. And again, the rough side is the part that goes in. You push it all the way till it's flush. Because when you put that on there, you make sure it's all the way. So you're going to have to push that magnet down. A lot of that Goop's going to come up around the edges, which is fine. Now again, we can't test this until it's dry. So let's go ahead and put this aside. We're going to move on to number 2 and do the same technique. All right, it had time to dry. It's all dry. Let's put them together. Watch this. Here we go. Oh, snap. Oh, look at that. Snap. Oh, oh, oh. And snap. Look at that. Ta-da! This actually works better than it had a right to. I was really I thought I was gonna have to go back and do some cosmetic, like grinding and shaping, kind of make a new piece. But I was lucky. I made the cuts so clean that when I put the pieces on, it's almost seamless. It just drops right back in place. On the edges, you can see the raw foam. So my plan is I'm going to go back. Let's paint those. I think we just go ahead and take some paint. Best choice for this would be the Plaid Effects paint. I like the Plaid Effects paint because it's acrylic base and it's flexible. Now we're going to move on to, as you guys can see, the fur I did before, how it's wrapping inside, and this is just a mess. So I'm going to... So what I've done here is I took a paper, made a pattern. This is the, this is going to sit, as you can see right here. And I've done it so there's a right and a left to it. So I'm just going to trace this side and then flip it for the other side. And then for the top piece, it'll just be a separate piece here. As long as and again, it's all about the fur and the direction. So let's make a pattern for this as well too. Since I went through the trouble to make a pattern for this edge, I should go ahead and make it. So my plan is to make the fur like this and then end here, and the other fur would just kind of somewhat overlap. On the edge. And the arrow is for the direction of the fur. So we want that fur to go that direction, okay? And same with this piece at the top, but the direction of the fur is this way. Here's the fur, and again, you can see the direction of it. Right, now we know this is the direction, so we're going to flip this over. And this is the direction of the part. So we know the fur is going that direction. So I got this guy, we're going to trace this. I have my, trace this? Oh, come on. So you have to do the opposite, that's right, so you flip. All right, we got that. Cutting the fabric is, you cut it from behind because you don't want to cut the fur. So I found if you take an X-Acto blade, just cut the backing. Like this, definitely a super sharp blade, and you just cut the backing. That's one. All the fur has been cut. Now the next step is we're going to take some electric shears and we're going to trim on the top side some of the fur down so we can actually hot glue this directly to the armor. Oh man, this works awesome. Okay, we have the fur all cut out. We trimmed back the fur so we can actually have a contact point for the hot glue to glue it onto the armor. We're going to start with our centerpiece right here. It's going to start here. We're going to glue it, work our way back right there. And I know for a fact it's going to be our piece here, so I'm going to line it up dead center, apply it. Ouch! Ow! Oh yeah, it's hot. I think that's why they call it hot glue. You know, I have gloves. Hold on, guys. I had these gloves I used to use. Let me grab them real quick. Doesn't burn me. Ta-da! There it is. It has been modified. I have the new fur on here. Looks great. And now the spikes are removable for travel with magnets. This is awesome. So this costume is transportable. I have the other shoulder, which we'll be doing the same technique on. This will be great. Got the magnets on it. I have to admit, this actually looked turned out way better than I thought it would. The lineup is pretty tight, and that's because I had a nice, good, clean cut. So if you're doing something like this in your costume, the key is make sure you have a nice, clean cut. If I was to make this, I probably would have had like a lip or something which snapped into it. But this actually cutting and gluing worked out better than I had a right to. So again, this was great. Thank you for being patient with me on this journey of fixing this thing up. There it is. The fur work is much better and the spikes are removable for travel. Everything I used in this build is listed just below the video. As a matter of fact, if this is the first time watching my videos, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. This video is from my live stream I do on twitch.tv/EvilTedSmith every Monday and Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And while you're at it, go to my website, eviltedsmith.com, where I have numerous patterns for sale. And while you're at it, guys, get on my mailing list, which can tell you what I'll be doing next. Thank you guys so much for watching. I like this custom a lot, and now I'm able to travel with it. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you back next time right here on Evil Ted Live.